Beloved friend, let's go outside. Welcome in the Sabbath bride. Beloved friend, let's go outside and welcome in the Sabbath bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nikavela. Well, welcome to the first Shabbat of 2021. Woohoo! We'll use these rituals for Shabbat that come around every week maybe to help bring closure to a year, quite a year, and to see what we can do to harvest the blessings we can uncover from this past year, and as we enter Shabbat to start this new Gregorian calendar year anyway, with a place of sort of a solid sense of ease, effortlessness, and wakefulness, awareness. It's good to see you, and maybe we're a small enough group, we can have some interaction and conversation, so don't be shy to unmute and share a thought, a poem, or if you have a melody you want to share, to incorporate into our Shabbat service. And if you have candles, looks like a few of you have candles out, you want to pull them out and get ready to kindle them, and you can sort of make a wish on this Shabbat and New Year as you kindle the lights, and we'll start with a blessing together, welcoming in a new year and a welcome Shabbat. The sun on the treetops is no longer seen. Come gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels, all those angels of rest. Draw near, O Queen, abide. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. Peace be unto you, all you angels of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, shel Shabbat. We made it. It's here. Let's welcome those angels of peace. Shalom Aleichem on page 13 in the prayer book, if you'd like to use that. Yalla, let's do this. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharet Malachei Elyomi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem LeShalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We greet and welcome in all the angels. In the commentary there you can see beneath the line from Rami Shapiro, angels are another name for feelings. So all the array of emotions that we've had this past week, this past year, not only will we try to welcome them, receive them with grace, but even receive a blessing from them. Ask them to bless us. Barchuni l'shalom. Barchuni l'shalom. Malachei hashalom. Malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And any emotions, feelings, or thought trains that you want to let go of before Shabbat comes in, we'll say goodbye with Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei hashalom, Malachei elyon, Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yalai, lai, lai, lai. Yalai, lai, lai, yalai, lai. Yalai, lai, 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 lai. Yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, lai, lai. Yalai, lai, lai, lai. To the major key. I'll take a few moments now to reflect on this week that's gone by. So much has happened, and really bringing close to a year, of course, trying to pack a lot of things in, I imagine, and routines continue to be disrupted. Maybe just take a moment to do a Chazrat HaShavua, to reflect back on the days gone by of the week. Sort of go take yourself back all the way to Saturday night of last week and into Sunday and Monday. And see what kind of memories you can harvest. Experiences we can weave into a blessing. Breathe them in. And use the exhale too to let go of the exhaust of the week, the remnants of any challenging or toxic interactions or anything you want to leave behind in the past year, in the past week. Breathe it out. Sometimes what we think of as the natural blessings, the things that felt great in the moment or even okay in the moment that are sort of easier to bless. Sometimes the hands get switched and it's the moments and the interactions and the challenges that we had in the past year that end up bearing the prominent blessing. Receiving the right hand. I'm going to try to draw on a few of those. See if you can find the blessing in the challenging moments. Lechu neranana ladonai, laria netzur lishenu. Beloved friends, let's go on Zoom and welcome in the Sabbath loom. Beloved friends, let's go outside and welcome in the Sabbath bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Page 41. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Kabbalat Shamor. Here we go. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shemuti v'eret v'litila lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat Nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat Nekabela Let's go to page 47, the last two verses. On the right and on the left, the blessings come from all sides. Yaminu smol, tifrotzi, vet Adonai taritzi, ayadish ben patzi, venismecha v'nagila lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. If you'd like, you can stand up with me. We can move a little bit, maybe even dance. Here she comes, we greet her. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam v'simcha u'tzola, toch emunei am segula, boi kala, lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. All right. As I was dancing, I accidentally turned the light switch on. Well, I want to talk a little bit about this Kabbalah, the welcoming of Shabbat. On this auspicious occasion, I'm looking out the apartment window at the neighbors who are decked out in Christmas lights. And here I have my little Shabbat lights echoing them. And according to a Catholic tradition and some other Christian denominations, so the dating of Jesus' birth on Christmas was no accident. It was done purposely so that the anniversary of Jesus' circumcision would fall on New Year's Day. So today is the bris day of Jesus of Nazareth. Mazel Tov. Right? Now that piece of it has been downplayed, by the Christian community and at the moment, but it does seem quite fascinating that the Gregorian, Pope Gregory's calendar, the Gregorian New Year, the secular calendar, calls the New Year coincides often with the transition in the Jewish liturgical cycle, where we transition from the book of Genesis to the book of Exodus. So a week or two prior to us reading about the birth of baby Moses being rescued from a basket and delivered, right, from the scare and the threat of being drowned. So we have this overlay of a Christian narrative about the birth of Jesus and the bringing in of Jesus into the Jewish covenant. The fascinating interplay and counterpoint, right? Where and it made me think this year. I remembered that when I was in rabbinical school, I was in Jerusalem studying. So we took a class that had equal number of Jews and Christians in it at Hebrew University. And it was about the relationship between the Jewish community and the Christian community in the Middle Ages in Europe. And the professor, one of the things I remember, profoundly was, it was in the Middle Ages, early Middle Ages, that the Torah and Haftarah readings for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur were chosen. And if you remember, so the Rosh Hashanah Torah portion is about the miracle birth of Isaac. Sarah is finally, after 90 years or 70 years, I guess, of waiting, when she was 9 years old, finally, according to the Torah, gave birth to Isaac. This unlikely, right? I don't know if it was immaculate, but it was certainly incredible as a conception and a birth. And then on Yom Kippur, there's, on the second day of Rosh Hashanah is the story about the binding of Isaac, the near sacrifice of Isaac on Mount Moriah, and Isaac being spared from that sacrifice. And that story, that narrative, is sort of foundational. It is the archetype around which the authors of the Christian Gospels framed their narrative around the death and resurrection of Jesus. And the professor suggested that it was no accident that the rabbis, the sages of that generation, chose those narratives for Rosh Hashanah. And then, of course, Yom Kippur, 10 days later, or 9 days after the second day of Rosh Hashanah, the story of collective atonement through this collective ritual and confessional. So the prominent elements of the Christian, the birth of Jesus and the as a miracle, right? The Immaculate Conception, and Immaculate Conception actually refers to Mary's birth, but the miracle birth of Jesus being born, through the Holy Spirit, is that core narrative to Christianity, and then of course the death on the cross and the resurrection of Jesus. The Jews were in effect saying, by choosing those readings, hey, we've got miracle stories too. We don't just run away from Judaism because they have this attractive narrative in Christianity. We've also got miracle babies born, unexpectedly, and also near death and sacrifice and redemption and atonement for sins. All the elements that are sort of prominent in the Christian canon. We've got two, right? So as you're heading back to the synagogue, as Rosh Hashanah New Year approach, you can be reminded in this Christian-dominated culture that, hey, this is sort of where it came from in some ways, these themes and the cortex of the narrative. And so as I think about it in terms of the interaction between the texts of Jesus being born and circumcised, right, this week, according to the mythical tradition, and according to the Jewish mythical narrative cycle, the birth of Moses, which we'll read about next week, and this week being the concluding verses of the book of Genesis. So part of the things I remember most about that class in Jerusalem was one day we showed up to class and the class was half empty. And it wasn't because there was a pandemic. We looked around and it was only the Jews who showed up. We didn't realize, and the professor didn't realize, that it was Christmas. So the Christians weren't there. And he didn't cancel class, right? This is what it was like to live in Jerusalem, where you have no idea that it's Christmas or New Year's. And I walked away, especially from that dialogue between the Jews and Christians that were participating in the class, of wanting to believe that this tension, which it had a lot of certainly violent history in the Middle Ages, a dynamic between Jews and Christians, but this especially as we reconstruct and incorporate it in our own time, to think about this as a playful competition of narratives that could sort of bring out the best in each of the narratives, to highlight common themes, so that when we see Christmas lights and we see Hanukkah lights or Shabbat lights, we can see some common themes in bringing forth light into darkness, and that is a human motif, especially at a time near the solstice, right, in the winter time, and can value the distinct elements of each of the unique narratives and distinctive narratives. So as we head into or leave behind, God willing, a year of that has been dominated by a sense of polarization, even aspects that should be unifying, like human health and a global pandemic, which could bring us together and help us see common ground and support one another in terms of health. Even those things have been polarized and politicized. So when I think about what does our heritage or our heritages have to offer as we look at sort of going about things differently in a new year, I think maybe reframing this tension between Jewish and Christian narratives, and certainly populations, as a playful interplay, right? As an interplay and a offering sort of countertext to one another, without having to claim, right, one message or one narrative as true or truer or better or worse. It really, in my experience, doesn't serve either us in the long run or the relationship, for sure. Anyway, I just thought I'd offer that as sort of a, here we are on New Year's Day, coinciding with Shabbat and this cycle in our Torah. So invite comments or questions from folks, and to again greet folks who tuned in a little later. Shabbat Shalom and happy 2021. Anyone have an example of different and potentially competing narratives that ended up, playing off of one another in a productive, in a harmonious way? Okay. All right. Well, let's then continue and dive even further into our narrative for Shabbat. We'll do blessing for gathering together and preparing ourselves to hear and recite a little bit of Torah, recite the Shema, and as we recite these blessings leading into the Shema, the narratives that are being woven together in these two blessings are the narrative of the creation story and the narrative of the story of receiving Torah at Mount Sinai. So, bringing light and darkness and the cycles of nature, coming together with the revelation of law and sort of a constitution, communal covenant, to see those not as separate narratives, right? A human narrative and a nature narrative, but somehow integrated. So I invite you to think about sort of practices or guidelines that you've received and that maybe interact with the experiences of nature and the lessons from being in nature that we all value living out in Colorado. I'm going to stand up for the Baruch Hu. I think it's on page 57. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Together. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. You can turn to the next page, Elizabeth. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim v'chochma potech sharim uvituna meshane itim umachalif et hazmanim umsader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla golelor mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or umavir yom umevih layla umavdil ben yom uven layla Adonai tzvaot shemo El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Amari Varavim. And a couple pages. Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Avta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shofreinu v'kumeinu Nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Ve'orech yameinu Uvahem nege Yomam v'layla Ve'avat chalot asur mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael. And the Shema is on the following page. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. So heading into Shabbat and heading into this 2021, so the passage we just chanted together, the call to listen and to love with all we have, with all our heart, with all our soul, with all of our gifts and talents, and to put reminders, basically sticky notes, everywhere we can think of, between our eyes, on our hands, on our arms, on the doorposts, and then in the paragraph we didn't quite get to yet, but on the fringes of the four-cornered garments on the tzitzit. So this is a recognition of how quickly we forget. So many things I think that are worth remembering about this year. Now, we're glad we have the capacity to forget as well. But I'm wondering, recently put up a new mezuzah, and our custom is to, write in the mezuzah the things we want to remember when we leave and enter the home, right? So maybe it's a quality or this theme we've been using about welcoming Shabbat, welcoming our stories, our narratives, welcoming the narratives of others as potentially enriching ours. This image of the mezuzah. So I'm curious if the chat were your mezuzah for 2021, right? What would you write in it? Right? What do you want to remember as you write come and go as we leave 2020 and enter 2021? So maybe just a few words. Maybe it's just 1, 2, or 3 words that maybe just means something to you and can have associations. I want to invite you to put into the chat a few words that you would, might put in your mezuzah in time, as it were, as we transition from quite a year. We are fortunate, from Brian. Grandchildren, remember the good stuff. Listening and loving. Husband's retirement, gratitude. All of life is a blessing, love. Take a Shabbos, take a Shabbat. Yes, make Shabbat. Very nice. As we were going around the table at our early Shabbat dinner, I was just thinking about how our community has managed to, keep things going and have, all the services that we had planned before COVID hit in January happened in one way or another. There's not a single thing that we canceled outright. And in fact, we added services and programs and meditation groups, and we're continuing to add them. So it's really an amazing lesson about in the Exodus story, it said that when the more the Egyptians oppressed the Hebrews, the more numerous they became, right? The more prolific. So in some ways, the constrictions that we've been put under COVID have, in some cases, and certainly for our community, our congregation, has been generative and in a lot of ways productive. Yeah, those were lovely mezuzah reminders. Thank you. Our new home. Yes. Make sure I got everybody. Okay. Nice. So the blessing following the Shema offers this daily reminder of our capacity to be liberated. So you can fill in what you're seeking liberation from. And the story we go back to, of course, is the Exodus story of being freed from slavery, being freed from the fear of the oppression of Pharaoh and the soldiers and what they could do, and the song that we sang at the other side of the sea when we had found refuge and release. So one of the places of refuge that helped me this year in the different forms of seclusion is, in the absence of having communal song and being able to hear your voices and sing with you, to tap the power of music and song, and just raising our voices in song, even without the collective. And so this is a verse from Psalms that it is connected in the liturgy to the Mi Chamocha, Ozi v'zimrata, vayhi li lishua, and this melody is from Shefa Gold. My strength, my Oz, is the song that I offer, the divine song, the Zimratya, vayhi li lishua, and with it, for me, will be salvation, will be, which maybe is a word that we don't use as much in the Jewish community, but they use it in the Christian community, and maybe there's something to learn from it. This sense of the redemption, right, of being fulfilled, finding fulfillment. So I'll go from those words, Ozi v'zimratya vayhi li lishua, into Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai. Ozi v'zimratya vayhi li lishua. Ozi v'zimratya vayhi li lishua. Ozi v'zimratya vayhi li lishua. Ozi v'zimratya vayli lishua. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora teilot osei vele. Nora teilot osei vele. I know it's not all of you who might be alone in the room and can sing your guts out without having to feel, self-conscious, but you might try singing that one out and just not worrying about how you sound. See how freeing it can be. And then a prayer for getting ready to lay down to rest in peace. Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu l'shalom. Hashkivenu l'shalom. Hashkivenu l'shalom, l'shalom. Hashkivenu l'shalom v'hamidenu l'chaim. Hashkivenu l'shalom v'hamidenu l'chaim u'shalom. Hashkivenu l'shalom v'hamidenu l'chaim. Hashkivenu l'shalom v'hamidenu l'chaim. Lay us down without worrying about catching COVID or overcome with sadness and worry, and raise us up in the morning, the new year, sort of vaccinated from, everything that's no longer serving us personally, politically. Hashkivenu l'shalom v'hamidenu l'chaim. Hashkivenu l'shalom v'hamidenu l'chaim. Sukkot shalom, Sukkot shalom, Sukkot shalom. Oh, Hashkivenu l'shalom, Hashkivenu l'shalom, Hashkivenu l'shalom, l'shalom. And may all those in need of rest, renewal, and healing be granted a night of ease and peace. So many hospitalized and sick, so many worried about loved ones who are hospitalized and sick. We'll offer a prayer for healing. Feel free to include in the chat any names that you'd like to add. Misha Berach Avotenu Abraham, Yitzhak v'Yaakov, v'Imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah. May the Holy One who blessed our ancestors grant blessing and healing to Irv Silverstein, Joel Simon, Suni Simon, Mike Schneider, Renee Lordich, Dan Recht, Bob Suglia, Risa Holmes, Mike and Alida Glade, Susan Levin, Lawrence Fox, Ron Salzman, Yehuda Benjamin, Susan Stearns, Linda Shaw, Nikki Shaw, Eileen Salzman, Angela Fitzgerald, Edward Cohen, Cameron Hopping, Betsy Appel, Terry Noonan, Karen Batayelet, Deborah Shibelhut, Sally Feeder, Jerry Goldberg, Kate Olson, Adam Giordani, Eve Hogan, Brenda Giannotti, Simon Martin, Andy Hoffer, Shirley Barton, Bobby Fuhrer. May those we've named and those we hold in our hearts be granted a refuah shlema, a healing of body, a healing of spirit, and may their loved ones and caregivers be granted strength and hope and courage and vaccines. Vinomar, and let us together say, Amen. Amen. You can also pray for healing of our country and of the European Union and the UK and may we find ways to bridge those gaps between us soon in our day, and may this practice of Shabbat remind us how we can have an impact even through our rest, or maybe especially through taking a break from our habitual ways and ways of being. All right, we'll turn to Aleinu and the refrain, Ein Od, there is no other. A teacher and friend, Charlotte Weissman, who some of you may know, sent me a meme that said, this year when we look back on the year gone by, hindsight will actually be 2020. Ein Od, Ein Od, Ein Od, Ein Od. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם, נטע בתוכנו. אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, עוד אין עוד. We bend and bow. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד. Next page. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה עלי מלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, שמו אחד. אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד. Whoops. Okay, now we'll do hold a space for those who are grieving and mourning, people who have passed away recently, and maybe those whose yahrzeit anniversary of their passings occurs this week. So if you have a name, it looked like a couple names were included. So I'll start with the yahrzeits for this week that we're aware of for Beth Evergreen, Richard Deutsch, Lisa's husband, Erwin Raff, Bruce Goldberg, Steve Wolkowitz, Scott Chrissy, Martin Ash, Jerry Grob, Gerald Rosenthal, Glenn Seiler Sr., Sean O'Connor, Zelda Freed, Isidore Lieberman, Carl Zotter, Rose Lux Zotter, Tilly Weinstein, and Richard Lehner. And like included in memory of Joanne Goldstein, other names to include. Is that Laura? You just recently had that? So Sherry Peterson's brother-in-law Bob and Fran Rubino. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. Elizabeth, I don't know if I did all the names. Did you? Okay, well, we'll hold there. The Mourner's Kaddish really is, the Kaddish is a prayer that wasn't originally designed for mourning, for grieving, but as a bookend to be used throughout the service. So this Kaddish, right, we've drawn on it to bookend the lifetimes of those we love and members of the family, and also perhaps it can be a bookend for those of us who maybe not mourning someone specifically, but there have certainly been loss this past year, and to try to have that bookend be an affirmation of grandeur, of sanctity, of life, of song, of praise, of legacy, and an affirmation of hope for peace. So if you're saying Kaddish, you can rise and join me. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mivorach Le'olam u'lomei amaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal Shemei dekudsha brichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. That third to last or second line stuck out at me today. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, lifted up among all of the blessings and the songs and the examples of compassion and empathy that permeate our world. Lift up that praise. So let us hold up all the acts of kindness and empathy that emerged in the trying times we've faced collectively and individually in this past year. And may they feed us on this Shabbat and give us that sense of fullness and light, and may you have a happy New Year. May you find this night and day a celebratory one going forward. Maybe we'll close by singing Oseh Shalom. Oh, say shalom. Let me do a different key. Oh, say shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ve'imru, himeru, amen. Oh, say shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ve'imru, himeru, amen. All right. I don't know, is we have are Sarah, you are board member on duty? You are. Thank you for joining and steering us, and Elizabeth, thank you for navigating the tech stuff and the shares. I want to say Shabbat Shalom. There's lots going on in January and February. Elizabeth worked hard putting together the shofar, the newsletter that went out, and has a bunch of the stuff we're going on. And I see Marilyn and Irv are on there, and Marilyn wrote a book that grew out of her study of Musar at Beth Evergreen that we'll be doing as a book study for January and February. And we have a reggae service 2 weeks from tonight. Is that right? So 2 weeks from tonight. And so we'll try to convene a little band at CBE for that. Hope you'll join us for that as well. Any other announcements, Elizabeth, to highlight?
Yes, on Tuesday night, we've got Tuesdays with Maureen, and we're going to be learning about how Holocaust education affects young people's perceptions. It should be really interesting, so please go to our website to sign up for that. On Friday, the hiking Havurah is headed out to Elk Meadow Park, and next Saturday, our Learner's Minion is going to be with the congregation in New York.
Right. That's the congregation that I used to serve when back in Buffalo, or part of it. Anyways, thank you, Elizabeth. All right, everyone. Well, we'll keep the Zoom open. If you see somebody on here that you want to just check in with or chat with, you can send them a private chat and just say, "Hey, hang out on the Zoom after. I'd like to connect." But I expect you guys will want to move on and get off the computer screen to enter into Shabbat. And if you're going up to Loveland to ski tomorrow, look me up.